Hello, second graders. Welcome back to the City of Ember. So we are reading chapter 6. So on Tuesday, we read the first part of chapter 6. And chapter 6 is called The Box in the Closet. We haven't figured out why it's called The Box in the Closet yet. But we know that after the blackout in chapter 5, there was a blackout that lasted 7 minutes, and that was so long. People were like going all over town, and that was the message that Lena carried a whole bunch of times. 7 minutes. And so the people are really kind of freaked out that the blackout lasted this long. So the mayor calls a meeting, and he's going to give some solutions. Wait a second, but does he give any solutions? Not really. He just says solutions are being found. But the people of Ember can't even really hear him, and all the people in the crowd are starting to get really anxious and scared, and they're pushing each other. And so Lena is like, I've got to get out of here. Oh, and then the guards were kind of pushing the mayor back into his into the building of the gathering hall, and then people were throwing stuff. Yikes. All right, let's find out what happens. At the other side of the square, Dune and his father battled their way down Gilly Street. Move fast, his father said. We don't want to be caught up in this crowd. They crossed Broad Street and took the long way home, through the narrow lanes behind the school. Father, said Dune as they hurried along, the mayor is a fool, don't you think? Ooh, the mayor's a fool. For a moment, his father didn't answer. Then he said, He's in a tough spot, son. What would you have him do? So Dune's dad is like, well, he's in a tough place. It's not easy to be the mayor. Not lie, at least, Dune said. If he really has a solution, he should have told us. He shouldn't pretend he has solutions when he doesn't. Dune's father smiled. That would be a good start, he agreed. It makes me so angry the way he talks to us, said Dune. Dune's father put a hand on Dune's back and steered him toward the corner. A great many things make you angry lately, he said. So Dune's getting kind of upset. Again, a couple chapters ago, we talked about how Dune doesn't really like to follow the rules. He snuck into their generator room, and he gets kind of angry quickly, and so he's got kind of a temper. But his dad seems to be able to calm him down. For good reason, said Dune. He's like, I have good reasons to be angry, Dad. Maybe. The trouble with anger is it gets hold of you, and then you aren't the master of yourself anymore. Anger is. Ooh, that reminds me of temperance. When we have self-control, when we're able to kind of control our emotions and our anger, that's kind of for the best, for our sake and for the sake of those around us, when we can control ourselves. But if we can't, then it's kind of like our feelings and our emotions and our anger can get hold of us, and then it becomes in charge of us instead of us being in charge of our feelings and emotions. So, temperance. So the trouble with anger is it gets hold of you, and then you aren't the master of yourself anymore. Anger is. Dune walked on silently. Inwardly, he groaned. He knew what his father was going to say, and he didn't feel like hearing it. And when anger is the boss of you, you get, I know, said Dune, unintended consequences. That's right, like hitting your father in the ear with a shoe heel. Remember, he got angry before and threw something at the door, and it was the heel of a shoe, and it hit his dad. And so his dad is saying, when anger is kind of in charge of you, you get unintended consequences. In other words, things happen that you didn't necessarily think were going to happen. It's sort of like, well, that's a consequence. That's just what happened when you get angry sometimes. So we have to be careful when we get angry. It's totally normal to get angry, but we have to think about, what do we do when we get angry? I know with my kids, I tell them to go and like hit their bed or hit a pillow if they got to get their anger out or something. It's a good idea to like get it out on something that's not going to hurt someone else or yourself, like a pillow. Hit a pillow. We get angry. Okay. Let's see. That's right, like hitting your father in the ear with a shoe heel. I didn't mean to. And that's exactly my point. They walked on down Pibb Street. Dune shoved his hands into the pockets of his jacket and scowled at the sidewalk. Father doesn't even have a temper, he thought. He's as mild as a glass of water. He can't possibly understand. So Dune is thinking, my dad doesn't understand. I'm so angry. Lena was running. She'd already dismissed the mayor's speech from her mind. She sped by people on Otterwell Street going back to open their stores and overheard snatches of conversation as she passed. Expects us to believe, said one voice. He's just trying to keep us quiet, said another. Heading for disaster, said a third. All the voices shook with anger and fear, so people are really either angry or afraid. I think I would probably be feeling a little bit of both, a little angry, a little afraid. Lena didn't want to think about it. Her feet slapped the stones of the street. Her hair flew behind her. She would go home. She would make hot potato soup for the three of them, and then she would take out her new pencils and draw. Yeah, those new pencils that she really wanted, but that she still feels kind of guilty about because Poppy got lost because she was too focused on the pencils and not her little sister. She climbed the stairs next to the yarn shop 2 at a time and burst through the door of the apartment. Something was on the floor just in front of her feet, and she tripped and fell down hard on her hands and knees. She stared. By the open closet door was a great pile of coats and boots and bags and boxes, their contents all spilled out and tangled up. A thumping and rattling sound came from inside the closet. Granny? More thumps. Granny's head poked around the edge of the closet door. I should have looked in here a long time ago, she said. This is where it would be, of course. You should see what's in here. Lena gazed around at the incredible mess. Into this closet had been packed the junk of decades, jammed into cardboard boxes, stuffed into old pillowcases and laundry bags, and heaped up in a pile so dense that you couldn't pull one thing out without pulling all the rest with it. The shelf above the coat rack was just as crammed as the space below, mostly with old clothes that were full of moth holes and eaten away by mildew. When she was younger, Lena had tried exploring this closet, but she never got far. She'd pull out an old scarf that would fall to pieces in her hands, or open a box that proved to be full of bent carpet tacks. Ooh, those are kind of like little nails. Soon she would shove everything back in and give up. But Granny was really doing the job right. She grunted and panted as she wrenched free the closet's packed-in stuff and tossed it behind her. So she's just like taking stuff out of the closet. It was clear that she was having fun. You get a picture in your mind of Lena's granny in the closet just taking stuff out. As Lena watched, a bag of rags came tumbling out the door, and then an old brown shoe with no laces. Granny, said Lena, suddenly uneasy, where's the baby? Oh, she's here, came Granny's voice from the depths of the closet. She's been helping me. Lena got up from the floor and looked around. She soon spotted Poppy. She was sitting behind the couch in the midst of the clutter. In front of her was a small box made of something dark and shiny. It had a hinged lid, and the lid was open, hanging backward. So it had a hinge to it. Kind of opened. Poppy, said Lena, let me see that. She stooped down. There was some sort of mechanism on the edge of the lid, a kind of lock, Lena thought. The box was beautifully made, but it had been damaged. There were dents and scratches in its hard, smooth surface. It looked as if it had been a container for something valuable. But the box was empty now. Lena picked it up and felt around in it to be sure. There was nothing inside it at all. Was there something in this box, Poppy? Did you find something in here? But Poppy only chortled happily. She was chewing on some crumpled paper. She had paper in her hands, too, and was tearing it. Shreds of paper were strewn around her. Lena picked one up. It was covered with small, perfect printing. I wonder what the printing was. Ooh, the next chapter is called A Message Full of Holes. I wonder if that piece of paper that Poppy was chewing on was something important. and it was in a box that had a hinge that looked like it had been damaged. It looked like at one time this box had been very nice, but somebody had damaged it. But now it's open and Poppy's chewing on something. Oh dear. I wonder what it's about. We'll have to wait until next time. Have a wonderful rest of the day, students.